Hi guys, I just made another video on this problem here that we have on this 2-liter turbo engine on these newer BMWs. I'm sure you will find the same engine on a bunch of the different models on the BMWs. So just be aware when you see a bunch of oil and dust accumulating around the front part of the engine here on the right side, front and right side, most likely you will have the oil filter housing gasket going bad and creating a oil leak on the bottom side. So on this particular engine, so this will be probably valid for all of these different models, 3 series, 4 series, 5 series. You can look online and see which engines or what engine you have. But if you try to do this at home or possibly another shop, I'm going to give you kind of a quick guidance of what you need to do, because I already took this out because I was investigating what's going on with our problem, because we had milk in the coolant and we replaced the engine oil heat exchanger first, and that was not the problem. And then I realized that it could be that oil filter housing gasket, because it had a bunch of oil leaking on that side. As you can see, lots of dirt and oil all over the place. So when the oil attracts the dirt, that's what happens as a result, all this nasty substance. So if you want to do this job, the first thing is you're gonna have to clear a little bit of space here. In my case, I had to get the plastics. These plastics actually just pulled up, nothing crazy. They were just attached here and here, so they pulled up. I did take the 2 braces off here, the 2 stabilizer bar braces, but you don't need to take them out. I thought that I was going to need to get inside here in this plastic panel here, but I don't need it. I managed to actually use a swivel. And on that last bolt, the problem here is the one bolt of the oil filter housing that you would not have access to it. On the inline 6 engines, that same bolt kind of sits in a very strange place, but if you use an 8mm on a swivel, you can actually reach it. Even though these are inverted torques, I have been using 8mm normal sockets, and this has been working perfectly. This is the 8mm I'm talking about. It's a normal 8mm socket. It actually fits perfectly into these inverted torques right here. And I've never stripped one, I've never damaged one. This is the easiest way to do this. I actually have had trouble with the inverted torque sockets into these kind of actually slipping sometimes. So I started using this 8mm and it has worked perfectly for me, and I've never had any problems. So you have 3 bolts. Okay, the problem with this specific engine and this oil filter housing is that you have 1 bolt here on the top, so it's the long one here. Then you're going to have 1 more, which is that short one down here. It's this bottom bolt right here, and you're gonna have a problem here because this bolt, trying to put anything between the bolt and this pipe, you don't have enough space. So in order to get this bolt out here, you're gonna have to use, or what I use, the best case scenario for this would be an 8mm little tiny wrench. And if you use this, you have enough space to get it out to a point where you actually will get to this space here and then you have to kind of slip it out and then continue by hand, and it will come out at some point. If it doesn't come out, leave it alone, because you can actually take out the oil filter housing, pull it out, and then untie it again till the end, till it comes out. The major issue is again that hidden bolt right there, because when this bolt sits, it sits in a very, very bad place. As you can see, it's right down there, and the issue is it sits actually right, it sits right here, and it sits right next to the intake. I mean, it's actually literally stuck in here right next to the intake. Let me see if I can zoom in this. Yeah, so this is where the bolt is, that's the head, and when you install this, it's going to be stuck right there. So let me get this bolt out. So it will sit right there. It's down here. So that bolt, you will not get to it. There's just no way, because it sits next to the plastic intake. So in that case, on this particular engine, you're going to need to take some extra things out, and in this case, the computer needs to come out. The computer comes out very easily. You unplug all of these. Before you start unplugging these, please unplug your battery, because this is the ECU of the vehicle. So you have these 4 bolts right here. These are T30 bolts right here, and they hold T30. They hold the computer right into these 4 slots right here on the side, into these 4 bolts right here. Once you take these, the computer will come out. The reason why you need to get this computer out is because in order to kind of loosen up the intake, you don't need to take the intake, but you need to get it loose. In order to get it loose, you will have 5 studs. 1, 2 inside here, 3 inside here, then 1 inside here, and then the one back there. And the one back there you can get with a swivel. You're gonna need to use a swivel. And these bolts here are the 5 bolts. These bolts are actually 11 millimeter. So remember, 11 millimeter. These 4 bolts, once you get them loose, the intake will get loosened, like it's moving right here. All you need to do is, I'm using an actual pry bar to actually move this a little bit, and be careful where you're putting this. But if you use a pry bar in this space, you can actually move the intake a little bit. All you need to do is you just need to move it a little bit, so you clear that space right there, the space right here for this bolt to come out. Once you get it, you see it moves enough that you will get to it. Again, use the 8 millimeter. This is the 8 millimeter that you need to use. And you will be able to get to it and get it loose, and then you may have to use a little magnet if you can't pull it out by hand, but it will come out. It's actually this bolt, and you have these 3 bolts. The longest one is on the top. This is the bolt that goes into that slot there. It's the middle size, and you have the smallest. The smallest goes on the bottom front side of the engine like this. And once you get it out, you need to replace the gasket. Obviously, I would clean need to move this out, and we need to get the, as you can see, it's been mixing up here, the coolant and the oil. So we need to get this gasket out. We need to clean all of this and install it back. And I'm going to clean this space here with actual Scotch-Brite here. But before that, obviously you need to get some of this dirt out. Sometimes I would use a metal brush, even though it's not recommended. But if it's really bad like this, I like to use a metal brush to clean it up and then finish it with some Scotch-Brite. Okay guys, I was trying to clean this with the metal brush right here. But some of the residue would not come out from the old gasket, so you may have to use this 600 grit sandpaper. This would be your best probably choice. It's fine enough that it won't do damage to the material, to the metal, but it's also good enough to actually get the residue from the old rubber out. And I managed to clean, actually this surface here was pretty bad, so as you can see I cleaned it up. I managed to get it out. The only thing that's left is a little bit of this rubber here, right on this side, a little bit here on the top. May not be that bad actually, because these gaskets, they never leak on the top. They'll start leaking on the bottom first. And here you go. You can even try using a Scotch-Brite. That will help a lot. And once you reach a point where you can see this is pretty well cleaned, then you should be okay to install the new one. Okay, and I'm gonna get some brake cleaner and some clean rags and clean this to get it ready. Okay, good old brake cleaner, and clean this thoroughly to check this surface. Get into this hole here, this gallery, and clean it up. And actually everything is pretty good. It's looking very nice. So remember, I already made another video in, I believe, a few weeks ago, where I show you why the best way to install these gaskets is to get them kind of smudged with grease, because I've discovered that the grease will keep these gaskets fresh for years and years to come, and they just don't get burnt compared to just a dry gasket that was installed from the factory directly to the parts, where they will end up failing much faster and degrading because of the heat. So next step is we need to clean this, obviously, I will kind of save you the time, but what you need to do is you need to take this gasket out. Obviously, this will be kind of hard because it's almost like plastic now. Even if it breaks, don't worry about it, just you need to remove it. And once you remove it, you need to clean if there's anything left over from this gasket. As you can see, it's literally become plastic, and they will do that. They will also break right at these points where they're so hard. Yeah, here we go. It already broke here. You may have an issue trying to clean this because it's inside here. Try to use a Scotch-Brite a little bit in this space. It will help you. The green Scotch-Brite that I had, you can either use a gray or a green, or I believe they had a red one too. Again, just take this out and clean this. It's breaking apart, so I'll go and clean it and clean all this area around, and I'll show you. I'll be back in a second when I'm getting ready to install this. Okay guys, this is the most crucial part. We have the oil filter housing clean, and this is the seal, the new seal. You can buy this one, you can buy the Male kind, or you can get the OEM one, the BMW. But this is the part numbers, I believe it's 504, 530 on this particular engine. And the way it fits, obviously it fits in the space. So as you can see, it's kind of white looking because it's just a completely dry rubber seal. So this is again the most crucial part that I always try to emphasize on. I have created this procedure that I always wash these, or kind of wet these, or just kind of scrub these seals with grease just all over the place. And I have seen the amazing results when you actually let the seal be installed with this grease on. It saves this seal for many years, especially being in this enclosed space, and it helps with the heat and lubrication and just everything else. You don't need to use any kind of crazy grease, as long as it's kind of the clear kind, and try to avoid lithium based and silicone based, and particularly silicone based, because you will have a huge problem with silicone based grease. They have the tendency to actually make the seals leak in the winter times, in colder climates. They will not let the seal expand when the parts are hot, and this will create a leak that happens in colder climate or in cold conditions. It happened to me a bunch of times, and it kind of took me a little bit to realize that the silicone based greases are kind of strange, and they're not really made to be used in all the time or in very specific cases. So here we go. I'm gonna put a little bit of grease even inside these, even inside the slots here. Again, I made another video about a gasket that I had installed on an oil filter housing some years back, maybe about 5 years ago. And that gasket was on a personal vehicle, and something happened to the oil filter actual housing, and I had to take it out and just go through my other videos to see. But the gasket that I had installed about 4 or 5 years ago was almost like brand new, and just the way it looked, like almost like the way it was installed 4 or 5 years ago because of this grease. So I'm going to put just a little bit more kind of here and there, and again try to spread this thoroughly over the place, get in the little tiny cracks where the seal is, so that it ends up all over the place. And once it's ready, you can start installing it. And let me adjust this. So as I told you, try to grab this bolt first, the one that goes down here. It goes into this hole, and possibly you can install on the housing the long one that sits on the top as a guide actually first. So again, make sure everything is clean and ready to go, and just start it by hand a little bit. And this bottom bolt here will not have enough space for you, so you're gonna have to start it by hand first. And as you can see, there's just no space. This bolt will touch the plastic here of this hose, the plastic part. So you need to pull the housing up to release some space, and then try to tie it by hand first, and then we will use this little ratchet. As you can see, I've already started this, so I will continue a little bit further. But the way this fits, once you have enough once you open some space, this is the 8mm, it fits perfectly into these inverted Torx, and you'll be able to actually get it tied to the, you're gonna be able to get it all the way in. You can do it like this, or you can just do it by hand. And this is the top one, remember. Then the last one we're gonna install is this, the one that's on that little crazy space there on the right side. Okay, again, I'm gonna lift this up a little bit here so I can reach this hole, the installation hole. And as you can see, it is just right there. And as long as you move the intake a little bit, it will go in. And let me get this started. And let me get my ratchet. So again, 8mm deep socket, and even the short socket will still work. So Okay. Make sure that the bottom one is already in, so you have the space already to use your 8mm wrench to tie it. Okay. Okay. And then on the side here, okay, once you reach that level where you feel it's metal to metal, you can kind of get it a little bit tighter, but don't overdo it. You don't want to crack anything. I don't think I could probably find the torque specifications, but we cannot use it on that bolt. There's no way to do it there. We can only use one of these two, and this would be a pain in the butt to try to do with that torque wrench. So this is the only one to do it with a torque wrench. It doesn't make sense at this point just to do it on one. I will do this by hand now, since I got all of this tight. So I'm going to use a shorter extension and a hand ratchet to check these. Okay, let me get into this here. Okay, needs to be okay, this is tight. It's slipping because the plastic is actually pushing on my socket, because I need to use my two hands. So I'm gonna tie this one to and actually let me get my inverted torques just in case to check this again. Inverted torques for these is E10. I think this is 10mm or whatever it means. I'm gonna check these with this inverted torques. Actually, I can feel this could create a problem, because now I have more power over these bolts, but I don't like that too much. Problem is here, I will have a hard time reaching this because the socket is way over too big. So now the intake is gonna push on my extension and socket, so I'm just gonna try to check it a little bit. Okay, I think I got it tight enough. There's no point to do it anymore. Okay, what's going on here? See, there we go. And it should be ready to go. Again, just a last check. Okay, this is fine. And last check here. It is tight. Everything is tight. That was the most crucial. That was the most crucial part of this whole repair, to get this tied back. As you can see, some of the grease is actually coming out, and that's fine. That's perfect. That is what it's supposed to do. See, this is some of the grease right there. Yeah, so that's perfect. That's good. It means everything is where it's supposed to be. That grease will help you tremendously, trust me on that one. And the next thing would be, I need to clean or connect these hoses back. And we have the coolant hose here that I need to install some. Actually, I need to change the seal first on this one. It's kind of loose, or it's kind of worn out, so let me try to change the seal first. Always check these seals in these type of adapters here. The hose adapters is what I call them, where they plug into different sections of the cooling system, because those seals are extremely important. And if they are flat on the surface where they touch, whatever they touch, that means they're worn out already. So I just replaced it. You see, it's kind of it's already, it's in a much better shape. This is actually a brand new seal. What I'm so it should be in a better shape, of course. So this is the way it's supposed to sit. It's supposed to be kind of showing a little bit outside of the plastic level. So the best way to install also this is you need to use grease on these too. So again, same type of grease, just get a little bit. This will help you tremendously again, and smudge it around the seal, because especially in our case we have this aluminum fitting, so this will help you tremendously. And here we go. All we have to do is just install it here. Remember, there's a guide on the side. There's a specific pin right here, like this guide here, this little tiny guide here. It goes into a guide in the metal fitting, and once you guide it and it's ready, it clicked, the metal brace clicked or lock, so it's installed. And next thing is we need to install the coolant hose on this side, on the heat exchanger. So this is gonna give you a little bit of trouble, because this hose fits here, and you're gonna have to get this first, the fitting, and fit the hose, and then actually fit the fitting over it. And where is it? Okay, this is where it's supposed to be. Okay, that's fine. And it needs to go back into the specific slot here. Just make sure also that it's cleared and it doesn't touch the belt tensioner, because what actually happened in our case is the belt tensioner, or the belt, actually got torn or destroyed by all this oil that was leaking on the side of this engine from the gasket, the oil filter housing gaskets. So these two are installed, and the next thing is we need to install the bolts on the intake. Okay, remember, you have 5 11mm nuts. You may be able to get them with your fingers, but what I would use is a magnet and just kind of leave them on the studs. Sometimes I would actually try something else. what I would do is I would get the nut kind of attached to the socket, and if you have the space, I've used the little magnets where I kind of try to get it almost kind of leveled with this and get it to the hole in the same way with the other ones. Or if you can, use your fingers, whatever available tools you have. I have seen there are sockets that actually have a magnet inside that keep these nuts installed once you put them in. I don't have access to these, so I'm gonna improvise and just do whatever I can. So these 5, one here, one is here in this hole, and then the last one is right there. That last one you're gonna have to use a swivel. Okay, this middle one is actually pretty clear. So this is fine. The only trouble maybe this one here, yeah, because it's kind of stuck in the middle of nowhere. You're gonna have to use the finger here to guide the nut. So I'm gonna have to do this and just touch the nut with your finger, guide it towards the stud, and then you let it go. Okay, this one is fine, and the last one would be the one in that space back there. Okay, I'm gonna have to use your 2 hands and fingers, I guess. And it's in there, right down there. Now, all we need to do is just get them tight. So, of course, you always start from the middle. Okay. Then you go left and right. Okay. Okay, then this one here. And the last one. You need to install the sockets and this and guide it in there. And everything is good to go. And next step is we need to install the computer right here. And again, all we need to do is just fit it in here, and you're gonna need the T30. You have 4 of these. There's no way you can make a mistake. They fit in the 4 corners and the 4 holes, mounting holes. Okay, remember this one here, one here, one here, one here, and one here. And T30 again. And we need to start connecting the wires. This is the connector for the one of the pressure sensors here. So the way these go is, this is number 1, the one with this wire that's right here. This is number 1, and you're gonna have to start from this point because of these locking mechanisms. And this is open here when this thing is down the tab. So you push down and then the tab will go up automatically, and you need to push it over and to click. Then second one is this one. You're gonna recognize it with this sensor. That's the sensor for the pressure here. This pressure sensor is the second one. Again, push the tab down and push here, and once it pushes up, then you need to push down and click over this tab. So this is clicked, and then we have this next one. Again, push down, push here, and same way. And then these, you cannot make a mistake with these. They only go one way. Down and clicking, down and click, check. And the last one here has this opening mechanism here that you need to push down, and you need to slide this to the right to click and lock. Okay, there we go. All of this is done and it's ready. In my case, I need to install the 2 braces, which install with the inverted Torx over here, 2 and 1 on each strut tower. And then you install the plastics over there. They just click in here. You can see they fit in there in the tabs, and right here they just slide in here. It's a whole plastic that just puts in. And this would be on these panels, and then you just put you can install the engine cover there here on the top that fits into these little tiny holes. Those are pretty easy things to do. There's no point for me to tape them anymore. My job actually continues, because in my case I have to clean this system and get rid of the milky substance inside the coolant, and then once I clean it, I need to actually install the real coolant back in So my job continues, but yours actually is done in this case. And I would advise you, after you do this job, to check your coolant. Of course, you need to refill a little bit more, because it would have leaked a little bit out of all these hoses. And then of course I would advise you, most importantly, to change your oil after the job, because you may have ended up with some extra coolant while doing the job inside your oil. So it's not advisable to drive after this job just with the liquids that you had at this point, or you have left at this point. Check your coolant again, and check or just change your oil to make sure there's no problem, it's no risk of anything happening to your car. Okay, and actually, yeah, I need the filter here that I took out to install it, but it's not a bad, it's a pretty easy thing to do. Again, this pipe fits in already there, tight that bolt, and the filter, once you get in here, just tights on this bolt here, and it clicks into these the rubber mount there and here, and yeah, it's just this mount and the rubber there, and installs very easy. So again, this is this crazy job on this BMW that kind of looks crazy, but it's actually not. So hopefully you guys fix your car on time before you get any damage on your engine or your transmission because of the leakage on that transmission or that oil filter housing gasket. Again, thanks for watching, guys. Please like my videos and please subscribe. Thank you.